Okay, so hello and welcome. It looks like we've got people entering the room.
Great.
39 live out of 344 total registered. So welcome to Global Reiki Webinars. We will begin shortly. So the first thing is, hello, Adriana. And Jean, let us know that you can hear us. So one of you typing in on the chat, make sure to let us know you can hear us. Hi, Joni. Hi, Tatiana. Wow, yay, Jean in Crystal Brook, South Australia. We're so happy we're able to do a webinar at a time that is not terribly inconvenient for you. I think it's early morning for those of you on that side of the planet. It's evening for me here in Chicago, and grateful that all of you are letting us know you can hear us and see us. And hello, Sophia in Argentina. Hello, Karen in the Netherlands. Hi, Richard. Hi, Pavel. So happy to be here. So looks like, all right, great. Hi, Shirley in Hong Kong. Wonderful. Yay. Annabelle, also in Australia. Great. And hello to everyone who is watching this webinar sometime in the future. The future for me now as I'm speaking this, but here now as you're seeing it, welcome. We're really happy that you are here while we explore this theme that has come to the center of conversations between myself and Phyllis and a number of people from our global community who have expressed interest in the idea that we are sacred earth. And Phyllis Furumoto, who, for anyone who does not know, Phyllis, the woman whose video is right next to mine, is the Usui Shiki Ryoho Grandmaster and lineage bearer, and has been traveling, teaching Reiki and mentoring Reiki masters and practitioners all over the world for many, many years. And in Global Reiki Webinars, we create an opportunity for Reiki practitioners of all styles of practice to come together and explore these different topics together. So in just a moment, Phyllis will introduce this idea of we are sacred earth. And I'll just go ahead and say that we're actually doing an in-person gathering next month. Actually, a month from today, we'll be in Michigan together with about 30 other Reiki practitioners, unless there are more, unless you decide you'd like to join us. And we're going to be exploring this idea that we are sacred earth in nature, in the woods for 3 full days, practicing Reiki together, and just learning about Reiki and nature and community with people from our global community all together in one place. But we know that our community is much, much larger than the people who are able to physically make it to that gathering next month. And so what this webinar is an opportunity for our entire community to get into a conversation about this idea and bring it back to your local communities, to your Reiki circles where you are, to your students and Reiki colleagues, and just know that all around the world we're all having this conversation and what it means, and we're going to create a ripple effect. Yeah, really excited about that. And later on, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll make sure that there's a link below if you are interested in the gathering, so you can check that out, read about it, and potentially register or share it with friends who are able to. And those of you who are with us live, I will put that link up at some point throughout the broadcast, and know that if you click it, it'll open in another window. So you won't like lose us in the middle of a webinar. You'll be able to just click it and read it later if you're interested in that. And yeah, without also, if you're brand new to Global Reiki Webinars, we have a Facebook group called Global Reiki Webinars. So if you just go and search in Facebook Global Reiki Webinars, there is a couple thousand members of this global community are in there and have conversation after these webinars and share YouTube links to the replays. And if there are any questions that people submitted either in the live chat during the webinar or in advance, Phyllis actually takes the time to type out a response to all of those. So the Facebook group is where you can find that and read threads and conversation that happened between people from the Global Reiki community over the last couple of years. It's all right there. So now, without further ado, I turn it over to Phyllis.
Thanks, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Excuse me. It's a very warm, sunny day here in Arizona, and I'm safely in my house in air conditioning, so that's really nice. I'm suppose that I should be out in the sun, basking in the rays of the sun, and really loving Mother Earth and her heat right now, because it's been kind of a long, cold winter. All right. So before we start on talking, let's join together with our Reiki treatment. So hands on yourself, or we'll just close our eyes and be together in the space of Reiki. Thank you. Thank you very much. In our last webinar, we held the concept of the fourth dimension, time and space. And now we're going to perhaps go to another dimension, our relationship with the earth as a living entity with a life all of its own. I realized that in thinking about this theme, that when I grew up in a small town in Iowa, which is in the middle of the United States, and the basic economic venture there was farming. And every once in a while, I was able to go out to a farm and live there, gather eggs from the hens, and learn how to milk cows and shovel the barns out, and put big masses of piles of cow shit, basically, in a pile to be used to go back to the earth. And in those days, you know, the earth was just someplace to be. It was an it. And I think that if I had thought about it as a child, I would have seen it as a globe, and it became like this thing, you know, like a soccer ball that had these pretty pictures of forms on it. And that was the earth. And I was also very into Girl Scouts. So one of our big things that we did then was we went camping. So I got to become an expert in building fires and watching the stars and digging latrines, which means an outdoor bathroom. And during these times, I really got in touch with my connection to the earth, but it wasn't a conscious one necessarily. It was just something that I loved doing. And then when I was 30, I started to teach Reiki and be with Reiki. And in a few years, I was fascinated by people who would come up to me and say, "Oh, feel the energy of this crystal. It's really hot." And I would, you know, hold it in my hand and go, "Really?" Or people would say, "Oh, let's go out and hug a tree," you know, and I would think, "Really?" So it took me a while to get that I could have a relationship with the earth, that all these parts of the earth that were being given to me and shown to me were really alive and maybe connected to me. So one of the things that was really interesting was when a very beautiful woman who lived very far away, she didn't have, in her house, she didn't have um, electricity all the time. She definitely didn't have running water, and she heated by wood, and she grew almost all of her own food. And right after she received Reiki, she used to Reiki the seeds before she put them in the ground. And then she said the problem was that almost every seed germinated. So then she would take time to replant some of the seedlings that had grown up. And replanting lettuce seedlings and so on is very unusual and usually doesn't work. But for her, on the first and second year she had Reiki, she had a bumper crop of everything because everything came up. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And I put it away in my little brain. Recently, I've been doing a lot of work with a man, Ben Haggard, who introduced me to regenerative thinking and a whole nother relationship with the earth, and really getting me to see in my conscious mind the earth as a living entity. And what I mean by this is that it's an entity all of its own. It has its own consciousness, if you will, and it develops and grows and has stages and is a part of who we are, and we are a part of it. But what does that really mean? That's what my big question mark is. For me, the barriers that keep us from being a part of the earth that is within us is this belief that has been going on for thousands of years that man is greater than all the creatures of the earth. And in that, then has the right, not the ability, but the right to control the earth and all of the creatures. And this is deeply embedded in us. It's like so deep, it becomes a part of our DNA almost. And I believe that this very essential piece of ourselves, which is actually contrived, because that's not true, that we are superior to everybody else or everything else. This idea has resulted in many acts of violence and distrust, so that as human beings, we often see the earth and its aliveness as destructive or harmful. I'm just thinking about headlines when there's another volcano that erupts and people are in its path and they die, or their houses are destroyed and so on. The volcano becomes then the destroyer. And of course, in a lot of spiritual practices, the destroyer is a god, very sacred, because without death, without destroying things, then rebirth cannot happen. However, I don't think that that's what the newspaper articles are talking about, personally. And it sort of confirms our belief that we are superior. In the last years in our Reiki community, I feel this attitude has shifted. And in our practice of Reiki, I feel we naturally connect to the cycles and processes of our human body, allowing Reiki to assist us in holding these processes. So, for instance, now when I have a fever, instead of taking an aspirin, I give myself Reiki, and I also ask somebody else to give me Reiki. And in that, this process of the fever, which means that I get more and more miserable until there's a climax sort of, and the fever breaks, and then I feel much better. We could say that usually that process takes, 30 hours or something. And with Reiki, it might take 14 hours. But it doesn't reduce the pain of that particular process. For me, it actually intensifies it, because you're putting 30 hours of process into 14. However, there's something very comforting about that process, about knowing and trusting that my body is going through something, is like heating up and having a fever because it needs to. This is this natural process of cleansing. And that this whole process will allow me to come out of it, healthy. So I don't really want to take aspirin or other drugs in order to eliminate the symptoms. It's actually quite interesting to experience them and to kind of enjoy them, if I may say that. And for me, without being actually conscious of that teaching, I believe that Reiki has opened our ears, not just our physical ears, and our eyes, and not just our physical eyes, to the natural cycles. And it is this increase in receiving stimulus through all of our senses, not just our eyes and ears, that results in our feeling that time is speeding up and that the world is operating on a different time frequency. However, I haven't noticed the trees growing faster or my lettuce in my garden growing faster. I just noticed that there's a lot of stuff for me to deal with. And it fills up time, and it just feels like I have no time left. What we can do about that is work on ourselves so that we don't get caught in the stimulus that comes in, that we are able to ride through it, like the surfers ride through waves. And I think that's part of our plan as human beings, is to be able to be one with nature. And the surfers are a great example of that. The other thing that's interesting for me, and that I want to just say, is that the oneness that we feel goes in both directions. Like, we are the earth, but the earth is also us. And it is my conviction that to heal the earth effectively, the place to start is within ourselves. Thus, the questions from the event. What would happen if we saw our beauty as deep as the green of the forest? What would happen if we heard our beauty like the song of the birds? And what would happen if we felt our beauty like the comforting, healing warmth of Reiki. As we all know, beauty is usually defined or held in the relative world of comparison. Like, that tree is more beautiful than another tree, or that woman has better legs than this other woman. But what if we didn't see beauty in comparison to someone else or to something else? What if we could see ourselves in the absolute world, a being holding a sense of self, accepting everything about ourselves, so that there is nothing to change, nothing to be different? For me, that's the kind of beauty that we are all living and working toward. And this is the kind of beauty that we want to touch today, and also in the time that we have in Renora in a month. There's a wonderful song from the Navajo, and it goes, "Now I walk in beauty. Beauty is around me. Beauty is above me, and beauty is below me. Beauty is before me. Beauty is behind me. Everything is beauty. Everything is just as it should be." And it's our work as human beings, I feel, to really accept our beauty, our understanding of being, and to live that beauty. And if we could, this would, for me, really change the world. So that's what the Navajo believe as well. So we're going to take that piece of the Navajo philosophy, and actually all Aboriginal philosophies believe that, because it's their way, and take that into some of the questions that were asked by you, Rachel.
Beautiful. Thank you, Phyllis. What we're moving into now are questions that were submitted by you in advance. And the first one came from Joni, who I believe is here now. And she said, if we are all one great connected collective, then when one of us is doing Reiki, can we affect the whole collective, whether it nature, animal, human, or the universe?
Well, what a great question to begin with. My answer is, well, absolutely, of course. And one of the things that I've learned, and I would almost said we, but I will own it for myself, that I've learned is that even though I really want to change other people or other situations, it's me that actually I can change, that I can actually have an effect on. And so what's important for me is that we treat ourselves with Reiki so that we can more deeply touch our own beauty. We can get used to that. We can accept it. And that in that, we are able to then see the beauty in others, even though, relatively speaking, you might think it was ugly, but there's beauty in it as well. And I feel that one of the things that is our most important resource is our willingness to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. And the next question is from Sander. And Sander said, I am wondering why people are not closer to nature while we are one. Everything has an energy field. Why can so few people feel the energy? For example, the energy of rocks.
Well, um, it's interesting because uh, I can just speak from the places I've been in the world and from my own uh, existence here in Arizona. And I just see that we as human beings are not tearing up concrete roads and making more nature. We're making more cities.
Mm-hmm.
And every time, like there's a huge piece of property very near my house that's being leveled, and the natural plants have been destroyed, and the natural contour of the land has been changed to fit houses. And that's why we're not closer to nature. Uh, we just keep separating ourselves more and more from nature. Um, People want to have sterile packaging. So instead of fruits that actually can kind of hang out as fruits together in our grocery stores, they're all packaged already in plastic. Um, that's even a further separation. Uh, that most of the kids in the United States don't know where milk comes from. That's really sad, but it's true. You know, they've never met a cow. And I think they can't imagine that somebody, well, that people don't have to milk cows now. They have machines, obviously, and other separations. But, you know, that actually people could milk cows and get milk from a cow manually is kind of awesome for people, and maybe even unbelievable for some. So, in order to live with this growing separation and the unconscious separation of more and more packaging, more and more roads, and so on, we need to connect with our energy. And I think that Reiki really brings us naturally to that, so that we can put something in our hands and feel it. So if I go to the grocery store and want to buy tomatoes these days, which is a tough job, I have to say, here in the United States anyway, what I do is the tomato packages, because they're almost always in a little box or something, they always have holes in them. So I smell them and see if they smell like tomatoes. And if I don't get any smell, then for sure I'm not buying them. And then what I do is I just feel them, I hold them, and see if they have any energy at all. Um, my partner calls it rasa, which is kind of, you know, life energy in Sanskrit. And if it doesn't have rasa, then I don't buy it either. So I feel that as Reiki practitioners and students, when we are living our life and using our hands more to allow Reiki to flow through them, that our bodies become actually more sensitive to energy as well, that we can follow our intuition or our feelings about whether something has life for us, whether there's something there for us. And I feel like this is a great way to kind of complete the cycle of separation, which is to come back. And the more that we can come back, the better it is, I think, for all of us. So I'm a great rock person, and I don't know too much about gem and minerals, but I love rocks, and they have a lot of energy for me. And I know that there are rock people, there are ocean people, there are, you know, there are people who feel one of the forces of nature in these things, and I don't feel that so few people can feel it. I feel that we all feel it. It's just that sometimes it's not conscious. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Sander.
The next question is from Deborah, who said, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." That's a quote by Carl Sagan. If chi is cosmic energy, both outside us and within us, are we not just sacred earth, but also sacred universe? Does Reiki connect us not only with the energy of our planet, but the sun, the moon, the stars, and other planets?
Wow, Deborah, thanks. Thanks for just blowing up our visual field from this big to like the universe. And for sure, sacred universe. I'm with you, and I'm with Carl Sagan. Um, and I feel that one of the things that is different for me, anyway, in my relationship with the earth is that I've lived on the earth and I've, what's the word? Oh. Okay, can't think of the word, so I'll say it a different way. So what I've done is that I've treated the earth like a non-living thing, just like for granted. It's always going to be there. And, I see that my government and all the guys that make cars assume that there will be a limitless supply of oil and so on. And that's taking the earth for granted. But my relationship with the sun, the moon, the stars, and the galaxy, for instance, or the universe, even larger than the galaxy, is mystery. It's like I don't take them for granted. It always amazes me when I walk outside at night and I go, wow, look at the stars. I mean, that's a typical response, or come see the moon, come see the moon. It's so beautiful. It's because, I believe, it's because it represents the vast mystery of who we are inside, that we know so little about ourselves as human beings, that this mystery is this like wonderful reminder, or could be a wonderful reminder of the mystery that we contain and how beautiful that is. So I feel that our attention it is important to have attention in our relationship with Earth as a living entity, because once we really get this, then how we walk on the earth literally and figuratively will change. And I I could confess to a lot of things, like I love Ziploc bags made out of plastic. And I try to use them over and over again to lessen my guilt about using them. And so one day I was washing one out again, and the date I use it to freeze food and so on, but especially when I had a garden. And the date was like 2004. And I just went, well, this bag has been around for a long time. And I try to do that, but it's still plastic. It's still a petroleum product. And I still freak out when people put things in my dishes into the refrigerator. I don't know why, but it's an interesting process to see all these little daily things that we do. Speaks to our willingness to be with the earth and to care for it. So I can't be righteous, but I'd love to be closer.
Mhm.
So, and Rachel, if you have anything you would like to add, feel free.
Yeah, there actually are some things that this question in particular
Uh,
brought up, and it's the just the wisdom in the word universe, being universe, so one verse or one story that
sure.
unites and connects everything that is, was, and will be. And one of the ways that I tangibly understand
Uh-huh.
that is through breath. Um, like when I breathe, I inhale because the rest of life on earth exhales. And when I exhale, other life inhales. And and through breath, we physically are the material particles that just were, this philodendron sitting behind me, or the trees outside, or other life, other earth. Like physically we are. When our consciousness transcends form, when we die, our physical body becomes nourishment for, becomes really fertile soil. We decompose, and in a way that our physical body physically becomes new life. And we eat earth and physically are earth. So in whatever it was, all of that's my best articulation at what I understand of the universe. I was reminded of in this last question, and thank you, Phyllis, for inviting me to share.
Oh, you're welcome.
So our next statement um, is from Terry. Hi, Terry. I'm pretty sure you're with us now. And Terry said, "No questions. I believe we are sacred earth, and Reiki connects us to it through this divine cycle."
Agreed.
Good. You did. Did you want to respond to it or no? Okay.
Really. I just loved the statement. I felt like it was really succinct and very beautiful. Thank you.
Great. So our next
Our next question is as long as the last was brief.
yes. So from Joanne Louise, we have Mother Earth and humanity are going through a period of a 5D ascension right now. We are all learning to embrace our new energetic 5-dimensional energy bodies, which is a beautiful process for many, but unnerving for others, who we may describe as asleep. We are now fully understanding that this transition is necessary to understand that we are truly connected to our planet. Indeed, we are all connected to everything energetically, but we as Reiki practitioners have always known this. I had the amazing opportunity to experience angelic Reiki last year in mainland Scotland, and we are taught that Mother Earth has her own guardian angel who has the same job as our human beings, guardian angels. My question is this: should we, as Reiki practitioners who meditate daily, be trying to do more energetically Reiki speaking for her? I feel it would benefit Mother Earth and humanity enormously if we incorporated daily meditation practice that included sending Reiki healing directly to her consciously to help her with her ascension process. Could we, as Reiki practitioners, develop a universal healing mantra that could be directed to her daily by those who want to help her, especially as we have all seen Mother Earth physically creating her new outer mantle by way of increasing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions? Thank you for that question.
Well, Joan Louise, when I first read your question, I thought, well, I'm going to include this because somebody might understand it, but not me. And
Hmm.
and I have to, when I get the questions off the internet, Rachel sends them to me, and then I have to type them into a Word document so that I can read them or at least think about them. It's a good task for me. It gets me grounded into the questions. And so your question took me a long time to do, and I lost my way several times, which I thought was really interesting. And after Rachel just read it, I had a few insights, and I have to say that it's a very interesting suggestion. So, I mean, I asked, why can't the Earth have a guardian angel? Which leads me to another question: what are guardian angels, and what are angels really? Which is a whole nother topic that I can't get into right now. I do believe in angels. That's not the question. The question is, I think that most spiritual practices and most Aboriginal practices or tribal cultures actually have something like angels, like spirits. And I just wonder about that. And they've been present, depicted, on walls and of rock and so on for millennia. So I just get into this question about angels. So I just have to set that aside and go to the ascension. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, by ascension. I do believe that we are all in development, the earth included. And there's a part of me that says, well, so there is global warming. Now, I wouldn't at all be like some of my government, some of the government people who deny that there's global warming. What I could do is say, well, we're humans, and the earth, we are part of the earth. And perhaps we aren't so wise, like perhaps we're not wise enough to stop using oil and go to electricity or something like that. But even so, we're part of the creatures on the earth. And the earth has the capacity, I believe, to accommodate whatever we might end up doing. I just, I have to trust that. And maybe it's a little innocent, but I do. And so perhaps we are part of the force that is propelling this process that you might call ascension. And I don't know if you're on, but if you could, in the chat, write what you mean by ascension, that would be great. And if you're not on, then sending us another email would be wonderful, and putting it on the Facebook page, because I'm interested in that. And I can't guess what it is for you. So should we, or should the Reiki practitioners who meditate daily try to do more energetically Reiki speaking for her? I'm not quite sure what that means. But what it brought to mind was, when meditating, I assume, and I don't know if this is true for your meditation, kind of meditation, but I assume that when we meditate, however that is, we are attempting, or we are putting ourselves into a state of mind or a state of being that is a part of the state of oneness. So that anything that we say about ourselves, anything that we want for Mother Earth is going to be for everything and everyone in that moment, in that space. I don't think we need to speak up for her, like defend Mother Earth, but I do think it would be great if we could say encouraging words like thank you and be grateful and I'll try and do better this next week, that kind of thing.
Mm.
And a universal healing mantra. So I scratched my head on that one as well, because this begs the question, or the question then is, does Mother Earth need healing? And I grew up as a hippie, and I think that if I had been asked that question, how many years ago? Well, whoops, we won't say how many years ago, but quite a few. Um, I could say, well, yes, we need to heal Mother Earth. We need to, I was raised in this farmland where people came in, the big agricultural firms came in and said, oh, you should use DDT to kill all your insects because it won't hurt anything and you won't have as many mosquitoes and stuff. And you won't have grubs and stuff that eat the plants. So, of course, they sprayed DDT all over. And now the groundwater in the Midwest is totally filled with DDT because it doesn't die. And it's poisonous. So everybody in Iowa that I know drinks bottled water because you can't drink the groundwater. You can't drink the aquifer water. And, it's sad for me. It just really is sad. And I see my friends and their fathers who are farmers who really, their mission in life was to feed the world, to grow things that, they felt like a part of giving, to everyone. And that's gone. Now it's all big business. And, weirdly enough, in the United States, we have this list of occupations, and farmer is not an occupation anymore on our tax forms. You can't be a farmer. It's just crazy. So if we could somehow come up with a kind of mantra or prayer to dedicate ourselves to connecting with the oneness of who we are with the earth, that would be fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's healing because it's healing a separation that was put out by people in power, so to speak, who determined the way people thought about their earth and about our relationship to the earth, and said that, as man, meaning humankind, we are the controllers of everything, and we're not. Mm-hmm. And the sooner we give up that belief system, the better it would be for the earth and everyone. So for me, that's a part of our healing prayer, is to really surrender to becoming sacred earth. So, thanks. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joanne Louise. It was a very moving thing for me, and I really appreciate the time that it took for you to type this in as well. Yeah. Rachel?
I don't know if I have a mantra. That's Phyllis, I muted you for the echo. I don't know if I have a mantra, a universal mantra, but I definitely use Reiki in in a lot of the ways that while Phyllis was speaking and sharing, I was thinking about one of my daily practices is to hold my hands over food before I eat it and give Reiki to the food. And my intention when I'm doing that is to just connect energetically with the food. Just like when I give myself Reiki, there's feeling the energy, the Reiki energy that comes through my hands, but also feeling the way that I am receiving that energy and getting an understanding of how I am energetically when I give Reiki to my food. It feels like a conversation. And and one of the things that I'm very aware of is I don't know the process of how most of the food that I eat got to my plate. And something that, this is the second year in my life that I've had a vegetable garden. And, while sadly it's true, giving Reiki to my plants doesn't mean that all of them survive or grow really large. But I do find that it is a meditative practice to go out to my garden every day and give Reiki to my plants. And I live in a city and it's a community garden, and no one asks me what I'm doing. People who are gardeners get it, that we're doing this because we're building a relationship with our fruit and with the last year it was my first garden. I didn't realize the relationship with the soil. We did no preparation of the soil. And so that's a big thing that we did differently this year, but recognizing that, all of this, recognizing that everywhere I step and everything I put my hands on, there's an energetic connection through Reiki by just understanding what Reiki energy is. And, so the meditation for me is to simply be intentional and conscious of that. So, and there are lots of different ways that can actually manifest for people in life. And it looks like Joanne Louise is on. And she said, I learned that you Reiki the plant roots, especially when you first plant them. Okay. That was Joni. Yeah, Joanne Louise just said she's here. Thank you. There's a lot on the chat. I'm trying to figure out what to read. It looks like Lalita said, hi, Phyllis. I'm finding this webinar so inspirational. Thank you. A few years ago, we fought the government and coal steam gas companies to stop invasive mining coming into this area. There seemed to be a deadlock that moved almost overnight, and I started sending Reiki to the situation. So, yes, for people who have distance Reiki as a practice, those are things that I find myself doing as well, in meditation, through the meditation of sending Reiki. And Lolita said, P.S. We did stop them at a place called Bentley, possibly the Aussie OK Coral. I don't know if that was a comment to someone else. Phyllis, you are muted, and I cannot unmute you.
Muted. Okay.
Great.
So the OK Corral.
Okay.
We're really close to the OK Corral here in Arizona. So, where everybody got shot and, ended the whole fight. But Lanita, hi. I know her. So, cool. You can't speak live, Joanne Louise. I don't think so. So
Joanne Louise, if you are logged in with a Gmail account, we can potentially invite you on, but we have a new system. I haven't done it since then, and would like to move through the other questions and maybe try it at the end if we have time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great. All right. Let's go for the other questions. See if we have time.
Okay. Great. So, Nicholas said, in Shinto, one of the primary aims is to live in harmony with Daishizen. Excuse me if that was not the right proper pronunciation. Daishizen, or great nature. Since Shinto thinking pervades much of the Japanese culture and art forms, how do you think this belief has shaped Reiki?
Well, it's a little bit the wrong question. I would say, what is the relationship between Shinto and our Reiki practice? Because, sorry, for me, Mikao Usui, a Japanese man, had as his basic philosophy of life the principles of Shinto, along with any practice of Buddhism that he had. As you know, in the Japanese culture, they are so meshed that it's really hard to separate one from the other, although they have tried. And so Reiki, the energy, is, of course, a way of speaking about um, their their impression of energetic that has to do with the human being, I would say. And that one of the foundation principles of Reiki practice, whether it be the practice I have or you have or anybody has, the basic premise for me is that everyone, everything is sacred. And that's one of the foundation principles of the Japanese culture, that everything is sacred. And so when you go to Japan, one of the most impressive things there is the way that people treat each other. And, you know, there is, of course, some crime, but the crime rate against people against other people is extremely low. And the way that you're treated in restaurants, in you know, when you get into a taxi cab and everything, they want the best for you, and they don't want to disturb your wa. And your wa is kind of your, you know, your space. So they don't try. They try to make everything very harmonious, but at the same time, they're incredibly polite. So the bow is to show kind of respect for anybody that they bow to, which is several times. So it was really a beautiful time for me to be in Japan, and I'm looking forward to going back in September. So I believe that this is that our Reiki practice carries the fundamental principles of Shinto naturally. Thank you for the question. Great question.
The next question is from Carolyn. And Carolyn said, how can we connect others to this truth that we are sacred earth, particularly those who are angry, sad, and have lost their way? How can we reconnect to energy and what is around us in our fast-paced life?
Before I go to this question, Rachel, have to say this. One of the things that I would like to do during our time together in Renora is to actually attempt to write this idea of a universal healing mantra.
Yeah.
But that's not what I would call it, but this idea that we talked about. I'd like to open that discussion up to the group and somehow take some time during the weekend to really revisit it. I think that would be great. And thanks, Jean Louise, for that idea. It's alive.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can we connect others to the truth that we are sacred earth? Well, we live it. I have a lot of friends who are so committed to this principle, like this woman I was speaking about who received Reiki and Reiki'd her seeds and then had to replant little seedlings of everything because she couldn't bear to put them in the compost pile because her rate of germination went up from, like maybe 70% to 99%.
Well,
yeah. And she is like the Earth Mother for me. She's amazing. And her being herself, the way that she literally walks on the earth is so beautiful. And it's so touching for me because she teaches me whenever I walk with her. So, that's the best way that we can do this is to really concentrate on our own connection with sacred earth and our own understanding that we are sacred earth and our children, our brothers and sisters, our family, our social families, they'll be all affected by it. And even those who are angry and sad and have lost their way, they too will be affected by it. And um, yeah, and it's coming from a trust that everyone's path is theirs and theirs alone. Like, there are many different ways to be on the earth, and we have to trust that our path is ours, and other people walk their path. And the more compassion and understanding that we can have for everybody's path, and be trusting enough to actually allow the path to be, even though we want to change it for someone else. We've got to, that's what I mean by compassion. We have to leave it so that they can learn what they need to learn and go on. How can we reconnect to Reiki? I mean, how can we connect to energy? Reiki. Excuse me. I thought that and then I rewrote your question, Carolyn. So, it's great. We just, we use Reiki. Hopefully we slow down. We try to, weed out those things that we should do because we don't really need to. It's just like it looks good for everybody else, but it isn't really us. So, and we just do what we feel like we need to do and keeps us busy. So I think the big answer is Reiki for me. Thank you, Carolyn.
And Phyllis, do you know this next person? Do you know how to pronounce their name?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But did I see him? Did I see the person online?
I believe it's Hilachin.
Okay.
What?
You're much better than I am at it.
I do my best. Respect and gratitude for submitting a question, Hilachin. And they said, because of the big climate problems, my question is, can we send Reiki with the whole Reiki community over a period of weeks or months for everything we need for saving our nature on Earth?
Well, I have two answers that kind of roll around in my head. And one of them is, yes, our climate is changing. And what is it that we say all the time? Well, the only thing that is consistent is change. So why should the climate in Iowa, where I grew up, be the same 50 years later? You know, I just don't think that's actually possible. And especially not with the influences of a lot of different things. People, have said over and over again that we human beings, but also the planet is going through a major transition. Well, why wouldn't the climate be a part of that transition? And I don't know. So that's one place where I come from. The other place about thinking about, for instance, England, and knowing that they're preparing in London to have London flooded by the year, I think, 2025, that London, the whole city of London, will be flooded if the water rises in the same rate that it is now, something like that. So then I think, well, you know, they will figure out something to do about London, or it'll be the time for London to relocate. Um, it's really interesting to hang out in the Netherlands because, of course, the Netherlands, as an exports all their wonderful engineering and understanding of water. Because of what they've lived with all these years, and I was so fascinated. A couple of years ago, I went to an kind of an old place where it was a fort for many, many years, and learned about the Dutch. I think it's called the water line, but I could be wrong. But anyway, it's this whole planned water thing that if when they needed to defend Amsterdam, which is their center of commerce, that they have this way of opening up all their dikes and everything to create an Amsterdam as an island. And so that the water becomes part of their defense, which I thought was really cool. So they not only know how to reclaim land from water, they also know how to use the water to take over the land in case they need to be defended, and other things like this. I mean, I find it interesting, and so it's like, what is it that the climate change is going to have us do? It's going to make us more creative. It's going to demand that we respect nature as a living entity, and maybe that's part of the message of the climate change. So do we need to protect ourselves? Well, if we're part of sacred earth, I would say no. What we need to do is to be conscious of our role and our understanding of how we can live with it, so that we don't think that we're victims, because we're not. I had this very interesting conversation with somebody, because there is this area on the Big Island of Hawaii where the volcano is erupting now for years, and there's this one area that the lava flows down consistently, like every so many years. There's this big lava flow, and all the houses within the lava flow get damaged or totally gone. Um, and so I met somebody who lived there in this area, and I said, "Well, whatever possesses you to live in this area where you know that for certain Pele the goddess of fire is going to come down and like touch your house. And they said, well, because it's such an alive place to live. You know, the earth is literally being built under our feet. And, you know, we're standing on new earth all the time. And it's exciting. And they're not attached, obviously. And I found that really fascinating. Like I had this judgment that people were really stupid, you know, who lived under volcanoes or in the floodplains or whatever. And if, in fact, they have this kind of attitude, then perhaps we need to learn from them as well, instead of, you know, just feeling safe because I live in Arizona and there's no volcanoes or earthquakes or anything around here. So it's another way to look at it. And I invite you to, you know, check it out and see if this makes any sense to you at all. Thank you.
Cool. The next question is from Rosemary, who said, from experience, everything that is fashioned from the material substance of the earth, living or non-living, appears to be able to absorb or interact with Reiki. Does this point to the nature of Reiki as the fundamental material of the universe, and this us all being linked as one?
Maybe that's thus.
And thus all being linked as one.
Yeah. Rosemary, good question. When I first heard my grandmother speak about Reiki, universal life energy, I just imagined that she was speaking about God power. And she used to say that, you know, Reiki is God power. Not God, God power. And this is such a beautiful philosophic question that, again, I would love to sit with it in a circle during our weekend. So I want you all to know that you're really informing us about the program and what's going to happen on the weekend when we're all together in person. I believe that Reiki, the energy, is a fundamental material of the universe, or is the fundamental material of the universe. I couldn't say which. And that the limitation that we have now about the way we think about Reiki is ours. It's only that I feel as human beings, we make things smaller so that we feel like we can comprehend them, which is another way of control, I have to say. So one of the things about applying the fourth dimension, time space, is that it blows up my little mind idea about universe and increases, you know, like expands it to a whole nother level. And so the more that I can expand into that limitlessness, the better, because it allows me to see that as a human being, I'm also limitlessness. Thanks for the question, Rosemary.
And the next question is from Sherry, who said, I would like to have strategies to further deepen one's ability to feel the connection with Mother Earth and Father Sky.
Great. These, the way that you wrote this, Sherry, reminds me so much of my Native American teachers and brothers and sisters who have really given me a lot in my journey to connection with the earth as a living being. And there are very practical things we can do that may or may not be new for you. But it is something that I found quite profound when I first started to do it. And that is that, for instance, camping is this wonderful thing that you get to lie on Mother Earth. And I really like doing it without little foamy things or air mattresses or whatever. I mean, I love the feel of the earth. And of course, you have to check around and make sure you're not lying on a pointed rock in the wrong place. But camping is this most wonderful thing, and that's a great strategy. And while you're camping, you get to start a fire, and and you look at the wood, and it's like all these years that tree has stood in the sun and absorbed the sun from the sky and have somehow materialized and built material from that sun and made it solid into wood. And when you burn it, it's like that's the wood releasing the sun back. That's how I saw it as a Girl Scout. Mm. And I just find this image so cool, and you can see, especially if it's a hardwood, you can really see the layers of wood burning and how each year, the sun came out and built this layer for you to be released again somehow. And to look up in the sky. And that's one thing about Arizona. We have great night skies. So one of the things about camping is you get away from the cities. Hopefully you get into a place where it's really dark, like dark. And it might be scary because we're used to living, with a lot of lights around. And if not a lot of lights, like ambient lights, so that the dark is never dark. But the darkness is soothing. It's scary, and once you get past the scary part, it's soothing because then your eyes become used to the dark. And I have really good night vision. And it's remarkable how much you can really see in the dark and how much your body sees. So, like, for instance, it's a really neat exercise while you're camping to map out a little trail and not have it be too easy, but don't go falling off any cliffs or anything. But at night, when it gets really dark, walk that path in the dark without a flashlight and come back and just experience how many eyes you really have in your body. It's amazing. And one of the other things is to be able to smell the smell of the smoke, the smell of the plants around you. Here in the summer when we have monsoons, there's this one of the gifts of the monsoon is that the desert is like 105 outside, and it's like everything's baked, but everything is green. I mean, if you can imagine plants who get greener the hotter it gets, it's so weird. I mean, it just like blows your mind. And then at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the clouds come over, they get really black, and there's incredible lightning, just stunning lightning. It's really scary. It also hits the ground very often here. And then the rain pours out of the sky. And the smell after that is like ambrosia. It's amazing. It just releases all of this hot, sage and all these different plants, and all these plants are so aromatic. And then when the rain comes, it just releases all this aroma. It's amazing. So, that's a great thing. Go camping. And in between your camping trips, create experiences that are like that. Like go for night walks, or go for a time and just sit, in some other environment than your home. And I do these conscious listening exercises where I ask people to walk on the earth and to listen to their footsteps. And that's really interesting because we hardly ever do that, because we like blank out. It's called selective listening, literally. And, we just blank that part out because it's not important to us somehow what our footsteps sound like. But when you actually focus on the sound of your feet on the earth, you can become so quiet that you hardly hear yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's another interesting exercise as well. So I hope you have a great time doing this. And be great for you to write on our Facebook page how it went for you. And those are some of the things we'll be doing in Renora as well. So I'm really excited about this gathering that's coming up, and I'm not really excited about the mosquitoes and so on, which is why I moved from the Midwest. But I found a great insect repellent that does not have DEET, and that really works. So for me, and so I'm going to carry my little citronella candles and my and my insect repellent and my very cool clothes so that I can be comfortable in the Midwest heat and have a great time with the group. So for those of you who are coming, see you there.
Yeah. And for those of you who are considering coming, there is still, there are beds available, and we'd love to meet you in person and have you be part of this experience. So those of you who are on live or watching our replay in Webinar Jam, there should be an orange button up at the bottom of your chat right now that can take you to the event page. Or if you've received the replay from us by email, there's also a link in that email that'll take you to the event page that has more information. And I'm available for questions if you're thinking about it and just maybe have needs that you'd like to discuss with us first to make sure that everything that you need will be there for you. Feel free to send an email to reikiwebinars@gmail.com. Again, that's reikiwebinars@gmail.com. And also reminder to go join our Facebook group if you're not in it already, Global Reiki Webinars. Really looking forward to just the continuing organic growth of this community, this online community, and soon to be, also in person. There are currently people representing Reiki communities from 6 different countries, but 20 different cities, which is really exciting. And what was I going to say? We do actually, this isn't, just a little announcement that we are also this coming weekend doing an online intensive about healing practice to professional practice. So for people who are interested in taking Reiki into hospitals or other formal healing settings. We're having a conversation for a full weekend all about that. So if you're interested in it, send me an email, reikiwebinars@gmail.com, and I can give you more information about that. There is still room in that program. So yeah, Christina, it is far away. And thank you for joining us on this webinar from Australia. We're so happy that so many of you were able to be with us. And I imagine that many of the Europeans and people in the Middle East who it's currently, as I speak these words, the middle of the night for them. Glad that you can join us on this replay, and we'll engage in this conversation perhaps tomorrow. Before we close, Phyllis, is there anything that you would like to say?
Oh no, I couldn't.
Okay, so let's close with a few minutes of Reiki, either self Reiki or if sending distance Reiki is part of your practice. We can. I'm going to send distance Reiki to our collective highest purpose, and I invite you to give that a try if it resonates.
Now I walk in you. Beauty is before me. Beauty is behind, above and below.
Thank you for being present with us for this broadcast of Global Reiki webinars. And until next time, peace, love, and Reiki.
Bye.